one upset and one near upset in college football in week 0. Huge week of college football games coming up. Plus, maybe some NFL trades get talked about. I don't know. We'll see. Coming up next on the Draft Countdown Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's edition of the Draft Countdown Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Bosarge, joined this week by my co-host, Miranda Wilhelm. Miranda, welcome to the Draft Countdown Podcast.
Hello, it's been so long.
It feels that way, but Miranda, you'll be happy to know that we are 239 days, 23 hours, 58 minutes, and 12 seconds away from the 2025 NFL Draft.
Wow. Love it.
It'll be here before we know it.
I mean, I can't believe this is here already. It's crazy.
I know, right? And you'll be getting to write your first. This will be your first ever official mock draft coming up here in several weeks from now. So you got a little time to get some of these prospects in your mind and everything. And but if you're new to the channel and you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and like the videos and all that good stuff, so you'll be notified when we go live multiple times a week now.
Yeah,
here on the Draft on YouTube channel. If you are following on X or Twitter, go ahead and hit that follow button there. And if you're a member of our Discord, you can ask questions as well as on Twitter or in the chat live tonight on YouTube, and we will answer them at the end of the show. If you're not a member of Discord and you would like to join, go to draftcountdown.com. There's a link at the top right corner of the search bar where we got one cat in the Discord there. It's just basically just letting everybody know everybody that's been cut as they get cut. So if you're not following along on Twitter, you can follow along on our Discord, and you're going to get updated with all that that's been happening. And it was cut day, not something we were going to talk about tonight. I think me and Brad are going to touch on it a little bit more on Thursday, but always a sad day, right? Because a lot of people probably playing their last days of major professional football at the very least today.
Well, like the number of people cut, it's like almost 1,200 dudes. It's like that's sad. It's sad for them. They have families, a lot of them, and it's awful.
Yeah, no, it's not good, right? But I will put up the banner here, biggest news of the week. It's obviously not the biggest news of the week, but it was big news for you because your team made a trade yesterday. Huge trade. And giving up a 2025 7th round pick to the Tennessee Titans to acquire quarterback Malik Willis. First of all, your thoughts on Malik Willis now being in Green Bay?
I mean, I just the first thing that came to my mind was like, wow, like Goot is giving up draft capital. That just doesn't happen. He finds these gems, like even in the 7th round. So I'm like, he must have seen something. I heard that Malik had a really nice preseason. Not that that always means a ton. It wasn't going to be Sean Clifford. Michael Pratt was iffy. He doesn't really know our system very well. So I guess you let Tom Clements kind of take Malik under his wing and maybe try to develop him under Jordan. I don't know. I was just stunned at it. I'm not mad. I'm not elated. I'm just kind of like, all right, let's Let's go.
My first thought when I saw the trade, I was like, well, he is better than Sean Clifford, who is a player I thought never should have been on an NFL roster at all.
Yeah.
And then Sean Clifford was almost immediately released
Yeah.
upon the trade. But they also did waive Michael Pratt today, who they drafted. But the assumption will be is unless he's claimed, which I don't know that he'll be claimed, but unless he's not claimed, I assume he's back on the practice squad tomorrow.
Agreed. I mean, you've got guys like Bailey Zappi who are a lot more favorable than maybe. I don't know.
Maybe we'll see. It's always fun to see. Everybody's always worried that the guys they get waived are not going to make it back to their practice squad. And what roughly each year it feels like the number's going down for number of waiver claims, because what you fail to admit is like, yes, you have to waive the team anybody can claim them, but they then have to in turn waive somebody else. So you have to add these players to a 53-man spot. So it's not necessarily, I mean, it's going to happen. It's usually about between 20 and 30 now. So it's a good chance that the guy you thought's going to get claimed is not going to get claimed.
Probably not. And there's a reason he was waived. And, if a team, unless they just have the worst depth in the world, you're like, probably okay.
Let's look back at week 0. I don't know how many of these games you watched last week, Miranda. I watched a handful. I watched like 3 or 4.
I watched the biggie.
And the biggie was the game in Dublin, Ireland. Florida State, number 10 in the country, goes over there and gets knocked off by Georgia Tech. It was just Georgia Tech was better up front, and it was a bit shocking to me because I thought Florida State with Patrick Payton, Marvin Jones Jr., I thought their defensive tackles, I thought they would be able to, but Georgia Tech just ran the ball, and just ran it right at them.
I mean, they bullied them in seemingly both trenches and kind of made Florida State just looked one-dimensional almost, and DJU just didn't have much going on, and it was bad. I mean, he doesn't look like he has many weapons. I don't know if it's, your opinion on it. Like, I don't think it's time to panic. It's one game, but I don't know. It's not pretty.
With DJ Uiagalelei, he was bad at Clemson. And then I thought he bounced back last year. I thought he looked solid at Oregon State last year. And I was, thinking maybe he keeps that trajectory back up. But that first game, he could not complete anything beyond 5 yards down the line of scrimmage. Now, of course, that led to some absolutely great memes on Twitter
my God,
that I enjoyed. But it was not good. Georgia Tech's offensive line, like I said, they were dominant. In the game. I mentioned a couple of guys that they had from that game up front. Their right tackle, Jordan Williamson, their center, Weston Franklin, 2 guys I thought really stood out in the game, helping neutralize the Florida State defensive line and making their day problem. The other big game, of course, was SMU at Nevada, a game that cost me a little dough. That was the lock of the week last week, and SMU failed on that as they were 25.5-point favorites, ended up winning by 5, I think. But I don't know if I don't know if I was ready for SMU tight end RJ Maryland, but he took over in the fourth quarter, ended up finishing the game with 8 catches for 162 yards, had the go-ahead 34-yard touchdown, had a 49-yard catch and run, doesn't block, or at least he's not really asked to at SMU a whole lot. But something, I don't know how I didn't pick up on this, but when I was researching to write my piece on for Monday, he is the son of the former number 1 overall pick in 1991 of the Dallas Cowboys, Russell Maryland.
What?
Yes. RJ Maryland is the son of Russell Maryland.
How old is he?
There.
Is he junior, senior?
He is a 4th-year player, I believe. So
he's potentially drafted.
He's draft eligible for sure.
That's cool.
But he's a little he's listed at 6'3", 232, I believe, or 6'4", 232. So he probably ends up checking in around 6'3", 230. I would say at the combine. But as a split out tight end, I think he's going to test really well. As a former track athlete in high school. So he's a guy that is definitely in a tight end class that's not heavy at the top. He could be a guy that could end up moving up boards very high by the end of the year.
Sweet. Good for him. Dang.
Quickly, don't know if you caught much of this, but the Senior Bowl released their annual watch list last Wednesday. So it was the day after we went on the air last week. 800 deep on the Senior Bowl watch list this year, double, I think, what they had last year.
What?
Jim Nagy said on local radio here last week that because this is the final year of the COVID eligibility, plus underclassmen now being able to be on the Senior Bowl, they said they just couldn't leave anybody off and end up getting a 800 plus deep deal. The Shrine Bowl has had 1,000 each year the last 2 years. But yeah, I ended up having to go back and add 317 players to the draft countdown, to our draft countdown watch list. But yes, so Senior Bowl roster probably going to have about 140 players on it, and they've got a watch list of 800 plus. So.
Wow. Well, I was going to ask you before you explained how is that possible? That makes sense. Dang.
All right.
That's exciting, though.
All right. So
a lot to work with.
I gave you the list, Miranda. Yeah. You've taken your notes. You
gave me some good games.
I did.
You didn't give me Southwestern, Richmond, Alabama, anything weird that I've never heard of.
No, there's
jobs.
Yeah, we had 10 games on the prospect primer this week, but we're only going to talk about 5. The 5 we're not going to talk about: North Carolina and Minnesota. They play Thursday night on Fox. North Dakota State at Colorado. They play at 7 o'clock on ESPN, all time Central, by the way, because this is the time zone that matters. Penn State at West Virginia play at 11 a.m. Saturday on Fox. UNLV in Houston at Houston play at 6 o'clock on FS1, and Southern Miss and Kentucky 6:45 on the SEC Network. Those are games that I'm going to watch, but we're not going to talk about tonight. We're going to focus on 5, and I will say this. I will preface this by saying I added 1. Just for you. You know which one. But we'll get to that in just a second. Let's talk about what I don't necessarily know that this game has the most prospects between the two teams this week, but it's one of the 4 games that we're going to talk about that are just absolutely loaded with prospects this week. And that's Clemson and Georgia. They're going to play. This is a neutral site game in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And it's going to be 11 a.m. on ABC. This is one of 4 games on ABC this week that we're going to talk about all of them tonight. I mean, you could literally on Saturday just put the TV on ABC and not have to turn it.
You're good. Set it, forget it.
And so let's talk about Clemson and Georgia here. We said 11 a.m. on ABC. Like I said, big-time players here. Obviously, Georgia, the number 1 team in the country in the preseason. I mean, there isn't a place on their roster they're not loaded with talent.
Right, always. It's
so
ridiculous.
I mean, on defense, offense, you name it. Carson Beck's going to get a lot of the talk, as
of course
he could be the potential number 1 overall pick next year. And I don't necessarily know he's going to end up as QB1 in this class, but he's the early favorite to be that because of the size and the arm and everything. Clemson, looking at them, I don't think they're as loaded as they normally are. They have some players that I do like on the offensive side of the ball. Specifically, I'm a big fan of their tight end, Jake Brenningstool. Not the biggest fan of Cade Klubnik, their quarterback, but he is draft eligible. Barrett Carter, I thought, could have been a top 100 draft pick at linebacker last year. He'll be playing in this game. But who are some players from the Clemson-Georgia game you're looking forward to?
Well, I can't even go into players. I'm nervous for Clemson at this point, if I'm being completely honest. I think it could be really ugly. They have some returning talent coming back, but last year they weren't great. What was it? The first year since, I don't know, I think it was like 2018 that they hadn't made a bowl game or something.
Yeah, they were 4-4 at one point. I think they ended up winning their last 4 or 5 games.
Yeah. And they just seem lackluster almost since like the Trevor Lawrence era. It's like they've just kind of slowly, man, they're getting talent, right?
Yeah. So, well, here's the thing. They are recruiting talent well.
That's what I mean.
But in the new era of college football, they're getting left behind because Dabo Swinney does not take transfers. He loses transfers out, but doesn't get them in. He's very hard-headed about this. And to be honest, I don't care because I want to see Clemson fail at every single step of the way.
Me too.
But, that's just me. Not the biggest Dabo Swinney fan I am. But
love it. I know.
Like I said, Georgia 2-touchdown favorite or 13-point favorite on Saturday. I think they win. I don't know if they cover.
Yeah.
Another guy to watch out for that I think could play a key role in this game for Georgia, Stanford tight end transfer Benjamin Yurcek, one of those guys that could end up making a big impact as well. Let's move on now to the game that we picked for you.
Oh, okay.
11 a.m. on ESPN. We're going to have Virginia Tech at Vanderbilt. Now, Vanderbilt has some decent players. I was a little surprised at their they did a good job in the transfer portal, getting a lot of the best from New Mexico State because the coach that Jerry Kill came over. He's now like an assistant at Vanderbilt.
Makes
but
sense.
Their quarterback, Diego Pavia, I don't know if he has an NFL skill set, but he's definitely fun for college football and almost single-handedly got New Mexico into a bowl game last year. They also brought in their tight end, Eli Stowers. So that's the Vanderbilt. They got some defensive players too that are fun. But the real deal here is your team. Your alma mater, the Virginia Tech Hokies.
It's supposed to be. I'm so nervous because I haven't been this excited in truly a long time. And I'm like, I don't want to jinx it, but we have talent levels. We have the highest return rate in college football, 86%, I believe. Coach Pry has been recruiting his ass off and his other coaching staff, of course. And everything, we were on a heater the last, 6-7 games, basically since Kyron Drones stepped in last year.
Correct. And I love Kyron Drones, and I think with development, he has NFL talent.
Yeah.
I saw enough last year to get me excited about his prospects, and what's going to help him in his development is you could make an argument that Virginia Tech has the best trio of wide receivers of any team in the country.
Oh, I mean, and trio, it goes down to you could name 6, 7, 8 guys. I mean, it's so deep. It's insane. Even the guys that you would name 6th or 7th, you're like, that's kind of a top 3 receiver on a lot of teams.
Right.
It's nuts.
But
and
the big three, Jalen Lane, Daquan Felton, to me, I think could end up being in the first round conversation. I love his game, his size, speed. He's an older prospect's going to keep him out of the first round, I think, but I think he's going to test well. Allie Jennings, another older prospect, but big production, and Jalen Lane, smaller slot-ish receiver, but also can play. And you mentioned Basul Tootin, the running back. He's going to be drafted as a back
Just
as well.
nasty. Yeah. He's
And
got
then,
NFL caliber talent, I believe.
yes. And maybe my favorite player on your entire team is edge rusher Antoine Powell-Ryland.
Amazing.
He's so good. It's tremendous bend around the edge. The Florida transfer had a big time season last year. He can play, and you got some corners there. Yeah. Mansour Delane,
strong, and
yep.
Delane,
and this is a good team. And I was it McAfee on game day last week picked them to win the ACC. I don't hate it.
He was hammered, but I'll take
it. when in Rome or Ireland, I guess that's what you do. But no, I think low key Virginia Tech is a playoff contender.
I do too. Year. I mean, again, I hate saying that out loud because I'm like, well, the universe doesn't care what I think, so screw it. But I do think we have the talent, and I think everything is in place, personnel wise and coaching wise, that I don't see how we just don't continue to roll. I don't see what would interrupt that momentum. And I think Vanderbilt's a nice starting point for us because we've tried both extremes for many years. Like since I went to school there, we would either play like an Alabama to open the season, which is like, good luck, you're going to get demolished and embarrassed. Or we'd play like Western Michigan or something and score 70 points on them. So I think Vandy's a nice, I think we should win, but I don't think it's just like a rollover game. Like you said, they have some talent on there. It's an SEC team. Like I don't know.
I'll be surprised if they don't start 4-0 and then you go down to Miami, and I think that's where you see where you are.
Yeah.
And that's a Friday night game.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. But no, I think they're 4-0 heading into that game for sure.
Okay.
And then the rest of the conference schedule, you get Clemson at home, and that's really it. As far as difficulty, I guess.
Now people are like Georgia Tech. I'm like, I mean,
you don't play Florida State, you don't play Louisville. I mean, it's doable. You have a lot more reason to be excited than I do, because your schedule's not a complete murderer's row of death.
So I don't know. I'm nervous. I'm ready to crack a beer already, and it's Tuesday, and the nerves are going to start flowing by Thursday.
You got to start drinking early Saturday morning, then, right?
12 o'clock kickoff. I love it though. I love an early game.
Speaking of murderer's row death schedules, the Florida Gators hosting Miami at 2:30 on ABC, and that's the next game here. Florida's last 5 games this year are against teams that started in the AP top 13. Now, Florida State's obviously going to fall out of that, but the other 4 probably are not. And they open with Miami. This is one Florida has to have probably for Billy Napier's job.
Yeah.
They've got talent. Graham Mertz got better last year as a quarterback. Shane has tried to beat that in my head last year, and I wasn't having it. But they've got some talent on that team. Mertz is going to have Elijah Badger transferred over from Arizona State to throw to. They've got some decent tight ends and running backs as well. The defense is going to be fine. Miami, I love their quarterback, Cam Ward.
I love Cam Ward.
He transferred over from Wazoo. Damian Martinez, their running back, transferred from Oregon State. I think he's in line to have a big year. Miami has a lot of talent. A lot of transfers came over this year, and a lot of what you would call veterans, I guess, 5th and 6th year players dot this roster. Miami, a team that, like I said, you guys are going to play them in week 5, and that could be a potential ACC championship-ish preview.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, if Miami was playing at home, I think this would be like an obvious pick. But being on the road, I still think they're going to win. I think they're only favored by what, like 2.5, 3 or something.
I believe Miami's a 3-point favorite.
Yeah, 3. I think this is probably out of all our games, I think it's like kind of the most intriguing for me because I really think it's going to come down. Cam Ward, like you said, I mean, there's a lot to be excited about. I don't have any. He's touted as like the best transfer quarterback in the portal this off season, and I'm not a huge Graham Mertz gal because I watched him. I cheer for the Badgers for my dad, and that was a kind of a failed experiment. So I'm not a huge fan, but like you said, I mean, he can turn it around. And then I think it's going to come down a lot to Miami's defense. I mean, they should be extremely talented at least a good level, if not even close to elite.
I agree. Next game up, 6:30 on ABC.
ABC.
From a pure numbers perspective, this game has more combined players on the draft countdown watch list than any other game that we're going to talk about. It's Notre Dame at Texas A&M. Texas A&M lost a lot, brought a lot in from the portal. Notre Dame, this is a good team. This is a playoff team. Notre Dame, and their top player, I believe, is cornerback Benjamin Morrison. I think he's going to be a top 10 pick in this draft class, but they are dotted with NFL guys all along that defense. Howard Cross III, Jack Kaiser. These guys are going to be third day, probably day 3 picks that are going to make rosters next year. They brought in R.J. Oben, a pass rusher from Duke. I think is going to make an impact as well. Quarterback, we'll see where Notre Dame is there. But that's where Texas A&M, on the other hand, has a promising quarterback and one that I think is going to be that guy that a lot of people start falling in love with as in that quarterback 1 range for next year's class. That's Connor Wegman, Texas A&M's third-year passer, 6'3", 215.
What are your thoughts on Mike Elko, first of all, coming in? Because he's a defensive-minded guy, correct? So yes. We're used to kind of that crazy, just offensive weaponry. How do you think this looks like a different team?
I think they're going to be more disciplined, I believe. I think Jimbo Fisher had lost it a little bit. Yeah. So I think you're going to see more of that with Mike Elko's team. And you mentioned defense. They got an edge rusher who I haven't watched yet. So that's why I don't have him ranked on my board. But I know he's a Purdue. He transferred from Purdue. And I know there's a lot of people love Nick Scourton as a potential top 10 player in next year's draft. He's not a guy I haven't watched yet. That ends on Saturday, obviously, with this first game. But he's a guy. They got a pair of interior defensive linemen, Shamar Stewart, Shamar Turner, that are going to play. And I don't know. He just intrigues me as a tight end. I think he's third on their depth chart, but he's on our list. He's like from Sweden or something. Theo Merlin Orstrom, 6'6", 250, third-year tight end. Got to see this guy.
That's Swedish, if I've heard.
So we'll see. But that's game right there. Just loads of talent playing this every NFL.
What time is that?
That's a 6:30 game.
Okay.
7:30 your time. Yep.
All right.
Let's move on to the final game, which is on Sunday.
Ooh, that one's going to be so good.
6:30, also on ABC. And you may be wondering, for those who are wondering, why is ABC all of a sudden loaded with games, college football games? Well, guess who is the sole home now of the Southeastern Conference? Disney.
Guess
ABC, as a network broadcaster, is owned by Disney. So there you go. And that's why the SEC is now going to be loaded up. They're going to load up that 2:30 window almost exclusively every week with the best SEC game to counter program CBS, who's going to put a Big Ten game on, because that's the SEC window is 2:30. Mm-hmm. That's where the biggest game has gone for the last, two decades. And Disney's not going to mess with that. They're going to put the biggest game on broadcast television. They're putting that game on ABC. I guess technically they're not this week because it's Miami and Florida, but going forward, I think you're going to see peak SEC games in those and the 6:30 window to try to counter program. I think they're going to let, not this week with Clemson, Georgia, but I think they're going to let Fox and them kind of have the 11 a.m., 12 noon window, and they're just going to take over everything else. But anyway, I got off on a tangent. LSU Southern Cal from Vegas, 6:30 on Sunday night. I think LSU is a low-key playoff team, a chance as well. Southern Cal, I don't know what to expect here. Miller Moss wins the quarterback battle over Jaden Mayava, transferred in from UNLV, who should have stayed at UNLV, in my opinion. But Miller Moss wins that job. He was on the Senior Bowl watch list, so I added him as well. I don't think Southern Cal has as much talent as they normally have had in the past this year.
Fair. I mean, these teams, at least just from like first glance, it's a new look on both sides. You lost big names, both of these teams. So that's intriguing to me in general, just kind of not knowing what to expect. Like last year, we knew, Caleb Williams was going to crush it. We knew Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors had a thing, and it's just crazy. It's turning over a new leaf. I'm sure they found plenty of talent, but I think this could be super fun.
LSU is going to be interesting. They've got a pair of potential first-round offensive tackles with Emory Jones and where is the other one? Will Campbell. Bookend tackles there. Garrett Nussmeier, can he take that next step as a quarterback? Son of Doug Nussmeier, the longtime NFL coach. And Harold Perkins, who everybody thought was going to be Micah Parsons when his freshman year, has bulked up a little bit. He knew he was never going to be a true edge at 6'1", so he bulked up a little bit. He's up to 220, and we'll see how he does as a full-on linebacker this year. A guy I really am intrigued by, has those NFL bloodlines, is their tight end Mason Taylor. He's a third-year, 6'6", 253-pound tight end, son of Hall of Fame Jason Taylor.
Oh, awesome.
Sorry, I hate to tell you, Miranda, but you're aging now. I don't know if you've noticed this or not. The years are clicking off when guys that you grew up watching play.
It's been for like the last, I would say, like 3 to 5 years. They're starting to trickle in, like your Frank Gore juniors, and you're just like, oh boy, this isn't fun. But it is fun. It's really cool to see, really, especially when they succeed. But
yeah, I didn't even mention that E.J. Smith, Emmitt Smith's son, transferred to Texas A&M, and he's the running back for the.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was at Stanford, transferred into Texas A&M. But that's going to do it for week 1. The preview there. It's going to be a fun week of football, Miranda, I do believe.
Mm-hmm. I'll probably be texting you pissed off if the Hokies do anything wonky.
I'll tell you, on that 11 a.m. window, I can't. This is my first year of football season where I dropped DirecTV. I'm full on YouTube TV now, so I get to put the quad box up on the screen Saturday for the first time.
I'm getting it for the first time too. I'm using it under my parents. Don't tell anybody. They live like 13 doors down, so we thought it's probably okay. We'll see. But we're gonna get it all set up this week. Have you used it yet?
I put it on like during the Olympics, but I didn't. I don't know. It's probably gonna be overwhelming. I'm gonna be honest, but I can't wait to try it.
I don't want to be overwhelmed and like. I don't know. I need practice. I told her, I said, we have to get it set up tomorrow, so I have days. Not cutting into our football time. Should be good.
All right. So let's quickly get to the lock of the week I mentioned earlier. Lock of the week last week was SMU minus 25.5. They failed. So I'm going to try to bounce back. I'm going Homer this week. That's right, baby. South Carolina hosting Old Dominion.
Ooh, that's right.
South Carolina is a 20.5 point favorite. I am buying the rec specs, baby. I love Lenore Sellers. I think South Carolina is going to put up big numbers against ODU on Saturday. I think South Carolina wins this game by 4 to 5 touchdowns. I think they blow out the Monarchs.
I do too.
I think they cover 20.5.
Yeah, I think that's a good lock.
I might have no confidence in them in like maybe 2 other games the rest of the season, but I am coming out firing. Like they play Kentucky next week. I will not share the same confidence.
Okay. Well, then you're ripping the Band-Aid.
Yep. All right. No questions in the chat or on Discord or on Twitter. So, but Miranda, you had a question for me earlier. We were kind of going back and forth about it. You were surprised that I was not surprised that the Bengals kept 5 tight ends through their cuts. They drafted 2, Eric All and Tanner McLaughlin, and they had Tanner Hudson, Drew Sample, and Mike Gesicki on the roster already. They kept all 5. I told you I was not surprised that they kept them because I consider Gesicki more to be a big wide receiver. But I also don't think that they thought that Tanner McLaughlin was going to make it through, even though I think he probably would have. But, and hey, it's the initial 53, right?
It is, exactly.
53, so
good point.
We'll see if that's the way it ends up.
You happy otherwise with everything?
I am. I think they're going to add a running back and maybe a nose. I mean, I think the Bengals are going to make some claims for sure. So, but it was they had all 9 of their draft picks and 1 UDFA made it. So
it's huge.
I mean, it's huge, but for a team that should probably be maybe need to be a bit more veteran this year, that's kind of surprising. But we'll see. Like I said, it's not over yet.
No.
All right, so that's going to do it for tonight's edition of the Draft Countdown podcast. Miranda, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to get out here really quick?
No, I am not responsible for anything that I tweet on Saturday from like 11 until closing time at my house. No, just the slate. I mean, we only touched on 5 games, but even some of the ones that were on your list, just like I know they come out swinging with some heavy hitters, but it's going to be good. And then we roll into the NFL.
I think week 2 is going to be pretty good as well. Brian Lamb going to join me next week.
Awesome. So, that'll be fun.
We got that looking forward to. But as always, if you're following on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, notification bell, like the videos, all that. Join the Discord. If you listen to this on the audio platform, be it Spotify or Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review, share all that good stuff out as well. You can follow me on X at Deep Fried Draft. Follow Miranda at Murda, she wrote. That's Mirda. Follow Draft Countdown at Draft Countdown and go to draftcountdown.com for all of your daily draft needs. For Miranda, I'm Brian. Good night, everybody.